Guys and girls, this week is going to be incredibly important for Bitcoin as we have the FOMC event and the CPI, in fact, on the same exact day. So watch until the end. I'll be going through Bitcoin analysis and we'll go through CPI, FOMC, non-farm employment data, which was marketed as something incredible, but that's really not the case. The labor market is not doing very good at all. And then finally, I'll go into the Bitcoin ETFs and my projection for what could happen with Ethereum. Sit back, relax, enjoy. If you wish to do so, you can skip parts in the timestamps, but I would definitely recommend watching until the end to get the full value. So looking at the price of Bitcoin on the 12 hourly, unfortunately, we got rejected from the 71.4K level, but eventually, I really do believe that Bitcoin is going to break towards the upside if you are a bear at this current moment in time. After you finish watching this video, go to the card at the top right-hand section. In fact, you can create a new tab and save the video for the time being because I show you 10 different charts that makes me super bullish for Bitcoin and essentially can convince anyone that Bitcoin is going to go higher. I'll just say that, but you can go ahead and watch the video later on. So 71.4 is the point to break. If you're a bit more conservative, then you want a break at the 72K level on the 4-day time frame because that is the upper Bollinger Band. We got rejected, that's okay. The weekend is not too volatile, usually happens, but going into tomorrow, Monday market open, Bitcoin will become much more volatile, and the volume that comes in, whether it's going to be positive or negative, that will essentially set the mood for Bitcoin. If the trend can continue bullish, amazing. But if not, then a rejection to 64 is possible. But I don't think Bitcoin will go below 64 in a very long amount of time because it is the support level of this huge parallel ascending channel that has been forming ever since the bottom of the bear market up to March of this year. So that would, 64 would come down to the support of this channel. And we would also keep within this ascending triangle, because if this ascending triangle does not hold, then things change. Then things eventually change because we would be forming a double top. I hope it doesn't happen. My indicators and oscillators are telling me that that will hopefully not happen, but we need to be prepared for any scenario. Essentially, if we want Bitcoin to continue in a bullish way, then we want to break above 72 with a confirmation. If we see a drop to 64, we need to pray to God that it holds, because if not, then Bitcoin would be creating a double top. But don't worry, I'm still all in. I'm still in my bullish bias, and we'll see if Bitcoin starts forming a double top, then we can reevaluate a couple of things. So now let's jump into the CPI data and the FOMC, which will both be taking place on the same exact day. And why are people so hyped up about this event in particular? Well, it's because Canada, the first G7 country to do so, cut their interest rates by 25 basis points for the first time in a year. And after Canada, Eurozone, so the entirety of Europe essentially, they also reduced their interest rates by 25 basis points. And people are now speculating that the US will also do the same thing during this FOMC event. But I don't think that will be the case, simply because Canada had an inflation data of 1.6%, Eurozone had an inflation data of 2.9%, very close to their 2% target, whereas the US still has a long way to go, as we sit at 3.6%. But things can change. That's why it's important, because we have the CPI data right before FOMC. If the inflation rate shocks everyone, then we could even get a cut this week, which would, in my opinion, dump the markets. Because if we go back in history, in a time of economic uncertainty, at least among people, maybe not in the stock market, when you have a huge Fed pivot, then you enter into a recession, at least in the stock market term. So it would not be too great, but my expectation is that they will cut either July or September, but we'll find out when we stream the FOMC on the channel. Apart from inflation data, though, the Fed also takes a look at the labor market, which was projected to be super strong on CNBC and Bloomberg. Forgive me, Bloomberg. But that's really not the case, because when we dive into the data, even though we have massive amounts of employment according to the official data released, that is not the case when we dive deep into it. Because yes, we may have high employment, but what is that employment composed of? Is it from full-time or part-time? Essentially, you want full-time employees because people make better salaries and they're probably in a good financial position. Whereas if people take part-time jobs, and if they're taking 2 or more at the same time, which is, by the way, at an all-time high, it indicates that people don't have enough money. So they're trying to do those part-time jobs as much as possible so that they can provide for their families. When we look into this chart, full-time employment lost 625,000 jobs, whereas part-time increased. So you're having a transfer, not let alone transfer, but you're having an excess, a deficit of full-time employment compared to part-time. When we look into this chart, it's even worse. You can see that part-time employment is huge, whereas full-time employment is in the negative. And that's just showing you how bad the economy really is. And to see the economy, you shouldn't look at the price of the S&P, because that's not an accurate reflection. This is an accurate reflection. And let alone the part-time and full-time employment situation, the actual people taking those jobs are mostly native-born, mostly foreign-born, not native-born. In fact, Americans are losing jobs compared to the foreign-born individuals. And why is it important? Because overall, foreign-born individuals usually take less pay compared to the native-born Americans, or this law applies to everywhere in the world. It's showing you that companies, etc., they're choosing foreign-born for cheaper labor. And if you're choosing cheaper labor, then the families, they have less amount of capital to inject into the economy, and you're leading yourself into a huge stagflation / recession. So it's not looking good. In fact, since 2018, 0 jobs for native-born Americans have been added overall, in average. 0. That's terrible from where I'm standing, and that explains why half of Americans believe that the stock market has been declining over the past year, even though it's been hitting all-time high after all-time high, and 72% of Americans think that inflation is increasing, whereas, again, the data suggests that it's been falling pretty rapidly over the past 12 months. But with that said, we can go into the Bitcoin ETFs. I do need to mention this. A gallon of milk was spotted to be selling for $27. I mean, what the hell? Apart from milk, we're seeing homes go for like $500K. And there was one that was literally a shed constructed in 1951 selling for $500,000. I don't get it. Debt delinquencies are at an all-time high. How are people going to be paying for these things? They won't. And that's just why I really believe that we are heading into a massive collapse. So yeah, it won't be good. It won't be good. But what is good, what we can still count on, is the Bitcoin ETF issuers buying up huge chunks of Bitcoin every single day. In fact, last week we had the second highest inflow ever for Bitcoin, even though that we were just consolidating and not a major move has been happening. $886 million in just one day. And now that IBIT holds 300,000 Bitcoin, if we keep going like this, in 2 years, the ETF issuers will have like 10% of the overall Bitcoin supply, which is mad to think about. And if we go to Ethereum, I think Ethereum will act very differently compared to Bitcoin, because we will be getting the approval sometime this month or early in July. And once that happens, I think Ethereum will continue rallying into it. And on the day of the launch, we will have significant volatility. That's when I'm personally closing my long position on Ethereum. But because Grayscale holds over $11 billion worth of Ethereum, I'm just scared about this number, because I really don't think that Ethereum is going to be performing better than the Bitcoin ETFs. They're expecting 1/10 of the overall performance in terms of inflows. So yes, Grayscale will be selling, once again, just like Bitcoin, but the amount of inflows that we'll be seeing from other ETF issuers will not be able to compensate the amount of selling pressure that will be coming from Grayscale, specifically for Ethereum. So I think that's going to be the difference with Bitcoin. So after we see the launch, I think Ethereum will continue to fall until Grayscale starts getting inflows in. And how long would that take? Nobody knows. So I think Ethereum is due for a huge correction after we get the launches. So do be careful. Of course, it's my opinion only. Always do your own research. I'm just worried about how much Ethereum Grayscale holds. And to end off this video, on Friday, President Trump said that he was the crypto president at the San Francisco Tech fundraiser. Now, guys and girls, please, please, please take any political candidates, presidential candidates, promises for Bitcoin, crypto, or anything in general with a pinch of salt. And this is exactly my proof, because he also said that he'll never ban TikTok if he becomes president. If you remember, President Trump was the #1 person advocating for a TikTok ban. So, I'm just seeing a huge 180-degree flips on many things here. And I think it's to get votes, essentially. But, I'm still voting for him, or I'm not voting for him because I'm not American, but I still hope he wins, because a Republican administration will definitely be better for crypto compared to a Democratic administration in office. Let's see what happens. I just wanted to point that out. But guys and girls, you've been absolutely fantastic for watching until the end. I know it's been an extensive video, but I promise you this week's content will be through the roof. We'll go live, we'll post different videos, so I hope you enjoy them as the week goes by. But guys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and I'll be seeing you all very shortly. Bye-bye.